And welcome back to a new video with Rams fan YT. I hope you have had a wonderful Christmas time with your friends and family. Today, when this is going out, is going to be New Year's Eve. So, hope you've had a fantastic 2024 and hope you have an even better 2025. But today I'm going to be doing the predictions for the next game week. There is a lot of games to go through. I'm currently not easily accessible to be able to make these videos live, this video live, so I will just be pre-recording them. So just to let you know that I'm pre-recording it on the 23rd of December, so trying to keep it as close as I can to the time that these fixtures will be happening, but there may be some changes which are happening, particularly some of the injuries and stuff in the January transfer window will have opened halfway through this prediction video, so there may be some shuffling around of the packs of players as well, and of course managerial changes. Solihull Moors versus Tamworth is the first one on. I believe it will be on tonight when you go out watching it. Bit of a local rivalry, you could say. Solihull versus Tamworth, they're not too far apart, and Solihull are certainly a team which will have half an eye on playoffs, but I think Tamworth have proven themselves to be quite a difficult team to beat this season. I'm going to go 2-1 Tamworth here. It could be a very close game going either way. Scunthorpe United versus Kings Lynn Town. Both of these teams have got a bit of an eye on the automatic promotion race in the National League North. As I'm recording this, Kings Lynn Town are 1 point off, Scunthorpe are 4. So this could be quite a big game in the grand scheme of things. However, I'm going to go with a particularly boring 0-0 draw, as these big games always seem to be. Brentford versus Arsenal. A slight London rivalry. I don't think it's a huge one, but I would certainly like to say that the New Year's Day fixture, which is happening in the evening, is going to be an interesting one, because Arsenal will obviously be wanting to win this one to boost their title hopes. Brentford, they're pretty much mid-table, looking to cause an upset. I know Arsenal to win 1-0. I think it's going to be a close game though. Plymouth Argyle versus Bristol City in what is a West Country derby, and I am certainly looking forward to this one. Plymouth Argyle under Wayne Rooney have not been doing well as of late. I don't imagine much for that to have changed. If I'm being brutally honest with you, Bristol City mid-table, Plymouth, as I'm recording this, bottom of the table. I'm going to go 1-0 Bristol City here. I think it's going to be a close game. Bristol City aren't on the best run of form themselves, but yeah, back to winning ways here. Queen's Park Rangers versus Watford. QPR have actually done really well recently, having kicked themselves on from a relegation scrap to, as I'm recording, 14th place position, having picked up valuable points over the last 5 or 6 games. But they're up against Watford, which is a bit of a difficult uphill battle, and I think Watford might win this one. 2-1 to the Hornets. Millwall versus Oxford. Oxford are in an interesting position because they're going to want to get away from that relegation zone. They are in 23rd and have been on a horrendous run, but they have recently dismissed their manager, Des Booking, to be quite a controversial one. Had to make sure that the appointment was right, and they have confirmed that Gary Rowett, I believe, is going to be a new manager. That is absolutely an absolutely vital sort of appointment. Gary Rowett knows the Championship inside out, and he's up against Millwall, his former, or one of his former clubs. Certainly will be wanting to get a bit of vengeance, maybe. I'm going to go Oxford United to win this one. I'm going to go Oxford United to win 3-0. I believe Millwall have also changed their manager with Neil Harris departing over the weekend just gone by from when I was recording this. So we'll be probably a couple week back. Um, so yeah, it, it's still not a pointed one as of yet, uh, but it could be. It could be literally anyone at the moment. Uh, they'll probably all have a pointed one by now, but I'm still going to go 3-0 Oxford, just because Gary Rowett get one over as a former club. Burnley versus Stoke City. Stoke's a weird club, so aren't they? They're in 19th, so they do get points on the board, and they are up against Burnley, which is a difficult outfit. But Burnley have seemed to come undone these games against some of the lower half of the table teams and getting sticky draws. I go with a 1-1 draw here, and I don't think Burnley will be particularly over the moon with that. Cardiff City versus Coventry City. Coventry started well under Frank Lampard, but again, they have just been so inconsistent as of late. It's so hard to place where they're going to be. Cardiff City in the relegation zone as I'm recording this. They're going to be wanting to get out of that. I'm going to go 3-2 to Cardiff City here. Valuable points at home against an inconsistent Coventry side. And the Roses Derby, you've got Leeds United of Yorkshire and Blackburn Rovers of Lancashire. This is a huge challenge in the playoffs at the moment. Blackburn in 5th, Burnley in 2nd. Burnley, if they win this, could very well cement themselves on a title charge. But Blackburn, I think, will be wanting to cause an upset. 1-0 to Blackburn Rovers here and get themselves a victory for the Lancashire outfit. Luton Town versus Norwich City. Norwich are not doing hotly this season. They are 13th, and neither are Luton 15th. Both of these teams probably underperforming in various metrics. Home advantage here, 2-1 to Luton, as they try and get a string of form together to push themselves away from that mid-table area. Portsmouth versus Swansea. Swansea, such a weird team this season. They've lost a fair few games, but they've also managed to win a few games as well. They're probably the most mid-table side this campaign, in 11th at the moment, or being the most consistent one up to date. Portsmouth, they're in 20th as I'm recording this, but have also picked up some fair few points recently. I'm going to Fratton Park here, a decent 0-0 draw. Sheffield Wednesday versus Derby County. We need to get points here, but it is away at Hillsborough, and Sheffield Wednesday, difficult place to go. They're on the cusp of the playoffs themselves, as I'm recording this, only 3 points off. I think they're going to win this one, unfortunately. 1-0 Sheffield Wednesday. I hope I'm proved wrong in this one. West Bromwich Albion versus Preston North End. West Brom equally just outside the playoff zones, literally goals scored as I'm recording this. This would be a huge lift to morale if they can win here. And I think they're going to win big up against Preston North End, which have been looking all sorts of out of shape this season and having 11 draws. Absolutely ridiculous amount of draw merchants here. But I think they're going to lose this one. 3-0 to West Bromwich Albion, pushing onto their playoff hopes. And the local rivalry of Hull City versus Middlesbrough. This is a good game, always is. So I think there's going to be a little bit of added bite with Hull in 21st and Middlesbrough in 6th. You'd probably expect Middlesbrough to get something from this game, but all 3 points. But I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw here. It's going to be a difficult game, I'm not going to lie. Hull will make it a horrible day for them. Sunderland versus Sheffield United. This is an exciting one, isn't it? Sunderland in 4th, Sheffield United in 1st. They are 5 points separating them as I'm recording it. Hull only 2 points. No, sorry, not Hull. Sunderland only 2 points off the automatic races. This could be huge in the long-term scheme of things. But I think Sheffield United on such good form at the moment. I'm going 2-1 to the Blades and continue that immaculate run of form they have. On to League One, you got another big game with Barnsley versus Wrexham. Sorry, Wrexham are in third, Barnsley are in ninth. Barnsley have been a bit inconsistent as of late. They are still only 1 point outside the playoffs, but it isn't an easy game against Wrexham here, who are only out of it by 1 goal on goal difference. I'm going with a 2-2 draw here, an exciting end-to-end game, could go either way. Blackpool versus Shrewsbury Town. Shrewsbury have been pretty dire this season, it must be said. 14 losses this season. That's just not how things should be done. They've been leaky at the back, conceding 41 goals. Only scored 21, but it's just not really good form. And I'm going to have to Blackpool, who, as we're recording, have gone unbeaten in the last 4 games. I think it could be many, many more. If they continue with that run of form, it'd be great for them. At home, 4-0 Blackpool here, fairly routine win. Bristol Rovers versus Leyton Orient. Leyton Orient in 15th. They have been on a good run themselves as of late. Bristol Rovers have not. They have dropped down to 19th. They are just hovering above relegation zone. Someone commented recently on one of my YouTube videos that they thought that Bristol Rovers will sack their manager by the end of the year. Well, we'll see what happens. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here. It could be quite a tight game. Probably not the best outcome for Bristol, but you got to take every point at this stage if you're in that scrap at the bottom. Burton Albion versus Peterborough United. And Burton, where do I even start? It just doesn't seem to be anything working at that club at the moment. And they're against Peterborough, who have been an out-of-sorts team this season. Have very much underperformed in my expectations. But I think they're going to win this one here. 3-1 to Posh. Cambridge United are home to Reading. Now, Reading are in 7th, but they've lost the last 2 games from this recording date. And although they're in 7th, I don't think it'll be the easiest game against Cambridge, who will have half an eye on survival. They're only 4 points off survival, and if they're going to win here, that could be huge. I'm going with a slender 1-0 to Cambridge. Absolute scenes at the Abbey Stadium at home as they close that gap between them and the safety mark. They'll be wanting to get every point possible. Crawley Town versus Charlton Athletic. Another team in a very similar position is Crawley Town, who've had a decent run of form as of late. They are up against Charlton Athletic, who have been proper mixed this season, real turgid form altogether. Where are they gonna? What is this gonna go with? I'm gonna go with quite a high scoring game, 4-3 to Crawley. Crawley concede a lot of goals. Charlton don't really, but I could just see this being a really odd game. It happens in League One from time to time. You do get an odd shock result. Lincoln City versus Rotherham United. Rotherham are getting dragged into this relegation fight, whether they like it or not. They are 18th at the moment. They're only 4 points off survival, and they're up against Lincoln City, which are a good solid team here. But I think Lincoln City might get a bit undone here. I'm going with a 1-1 draw. I think it could go either way, that game. It'll be exciting to see where it lands. Mansfield Town versus Bolton Wanderers. Mansfield had that really long run of form finally come undone with a win in the last match from this recording. And they're up against Bolton Wanderers, who are only on goal difference away from playoffs. Mansfield themselves are only 3 points off it. This will be an exciting game, an end-to-end game, I'm reckoning. 3-2 to Bolton Wanderers as they continue an attempt onto a playoff push. Northampton Town versus Stevenage. Stevenage have dropped recently, but they are back on the up. They're in 14th now. They did drop for a little bit, but they are now steadying the ship and have not been defeated in the last 5 games. Up against a Northampton team which are competing for their lives down at the bottom. They are struggling, I think that is fair to say. Have they actually, every video it seems at the moment, I'm trying to find out who the Northampton Town's new manager is. Kevin Nolan, apparently 4 hours from this recording being released, is the new Northampton Town manager. Can he turn the sinking ship around? I'm not too sure. I'm not entirely convinced this is a good managerial appointment, if I'm being honest. He hasn't been a manager since 2018, and that was with Notts County. If you look at his managerial career so far, I think I've got to be brutally honest with you. It's not. He did all right with both of his two clubs, but it was short spells, and yeah, I think you look at it. They were. It was relegation in. To be fair, he did turn the ship round at Notts County. I'll give him that. He turned the ship round at Notts County. Whether he's going to do that here, it's a league above. Bearing in mind that was in League Two. I think Stevenage is going to win this one. I'm going to stop rambling. 1-0 Stevenage as Northampton continue to slowly sink. Stockport County versus Birmingham City. Huge game. Birmingham City in second, Stockport County in fifth. If Stockport can finish in the playoffs, that would be huge for them. But this is a difficult game, and there have been some crazy scorelines this season for Stockport, and I'm going to go with another one here. Birmingham City to beat them 3-0 at their home ground at, I believe, Edgeley Park. It will be good for Birmingham, who want to try and get that title, make an instant return back to the Championship. Wigan Athletic versus Huddersfield Town. Huddersfield are in fourth. They have not been beaten in so long against a Wigan side who are a bit out of favour in 17th. I think Wigan, though, at home could put us a bit of an upset here. 1-0 to the Latics. It will be a close game, and I think Wigan will just annoy the heck out of Huddersfield's mind. Wycombe Wanderers versus Exeter City. Wycombe actually have been on such an amazing run of form. They've only lost twice all season. But I'm going to go with a bit of a shock result here. Exeter City are going to be the thorn in the side in this title campaign. 3-0 to Exeter City here at Adams Park. It's going to be mental, but watch, it's going to happen. Accrington Stanley versus Grimsby Town into League Two. And I've noticed that Accrington slowly seem to be sleepwalking into a bit of a relegation fight. They're only 4 points of a relegation zone themselves in 22nd. Where has this come from? It's not been an easy ride for the Lancashire-based team. They're up against a Grimsby team who have been solid this season. They are literally just outside the playoffs on goal difference as I'm recording. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw here, though. I think at the Wham Stadium, I think Accrington will be wanting to get every single point just to try and keep themselves away from this relegation pack, this relegation battle has been so crazy this season. Barrow versus Bradford City. Barrow very much in mid-table, up against Bradford City, who are on again in mid-table, but maybe on a playoff charge. They are only 3 points off after all. If they have games going in their favours, they will definitely be up there come the end of the season. 2-1 Bradford City here. I think a vital 3 points for the Bantams. Chesterfield versus MK Dons. This is going to be a difficult game for Chesterfield, who, although have been a bright spark this season, in 5th at the moment, MK Dons in 9th. The MK Dons have also had some good run of form themselves. They did lose the last 2 games, but they had that amazing winning run before that point. I think it's going to be a 0-0 draw here. It's going to be a close game. Could prove to be a bit of a sticky situation for both teams, with neither side really wanting to concede. Crewe Alexandra versus Carlisle United. Now, Crewe in 4th, 1 point off automatic positions. You'd think it's a bit of a formality against Carlisle in 23rd, but Carlisle aren't here to just make up the numbers. I think Carlisle will be a bit of a shock here. 3-0 to Carlisle United, and a vital 3 points in their survival hopes for this season. Doncaster Rovers versus Fleetwood Town. Fleetwood Town are a tough team. They're in 18th, and although looking very cut off from anything remotely singling either side in much of a battle, they're up against a Doncaster Rovers side, and very much pride is at stake here. Doncaster are in 3rd. They are wanting it to get automatic promotion. I think Fleetwood will do this one here. 1-0 to Fleetwood. It'll be a close, a scrappy, miserable 1-0 scoreline. Harrogate Town versus Salford City. Salford are only actually 1 point off the playoffs. They have been sneaking along under the radar as of late. But they have, because they've had a real mix of fortune, I don't think they're really going to actually maintain one. And they're up against a Harrogate team who have lost the last 4 games in a row. I'm going to go Harrogate Town to win 3-2 here, though. I think that'll be a huge result for the Yorkshire-based team. Just solidifying themselves, making sure that it's not too scary, and that they will get dragged into it. But yeah. Morecambe versus Tranmere Rovers. Tranmere Rovers in 19th, Morecambe in 24th. This could be a huge game for Morecambe come the end of the season, and I think they will win this one. 1-0 to Morecambe at home. Going to be a difficult place for Tranmere, who aren't in the most looking the most sharp this season. They tend to keep it quite tight, but they just can't score at the moment, Tranmere, and that is their biggest downfall. I think it'll be another one of them cases where they just can't score. 1-0 Morecambe. Notts County versus Walsall. Walsall has been so impressive this season. They're 6 points clear at the top, with the game in hand as well. You can't look beyond Walsall winning this one against a Notts County team who, yes, in 7th, be doing well this season. I just don't think they've got enough against this Saddlers team. 2-1 to the Saddlers. Walsall may well get back to League One for the first time in what feels like an absolute age. Port Vale versus Cheltenham. Port Vale in 2nd, but they have been on some pretty turgid form themselves. They have not won in over 5 games. The last win was 6 games ago now. They are up against the Cheltenham Town team, who are on a bit of a run of form themselves. They are currently on an unbeaten run of 5 games, although 3 of them are draws. I reckon this could be a win for Cheltenham Town. 2-1 to the Robins here as they continue their solid vein of form. And maybe an outside shout for the playoffs. Only 4 points off, you never know. On to Swindon Town versus Colchester United. Colchester have actually been on one of the best runs of form in the league at the moment. They're slowly gathering together results after results. So they have pretty much solidified themselves safety this season if that form continues. But a Swindon Town team who are looking to put points on the board could create a crumblisation of that solid run of form that they have had as of late. It has been tight games that they've been in every time. I'm going to go Swindon Town 2, Colchester United 1. On to the National League, we've got Eastleigh versus Barnet. I never quite know what is the case with Eastleigh. They are such an interesting team, I must say that. Barnet only a point, goal difference actually, off the top of the table, but they are up against an Eastleigh side who have not been defeated in the last 5 games, although, again, 3 of them are draws. They are only 3 points off the playoffs. Will they make it? I'm going to go with highly unlikely, but I think it'll be a good game in the end. 3-3 at this game here. Ebbsfleet United versus Dagenham and Redbridge. Bit of a old Essex derby, they're not too far away from each other, these two teams. Dagenham and Redbridge, bang in mid-table, 15th. Very nice, not much involved with that. They're up against an Ebbsfleet team who have been pretty diabolical this season with only 9 points, conceded 54 goals in 23 games. They are looking in horrendous form. Now, the defence has been a solid attribute to write about Dagenham and Redbridge, and their attack has been moderately good as well. It's just that they have not managed to get results come the end of the day. I'm going to go Dagenham and Redbridge to win this one at 1-0. A good 3 points for the Daggers. We'll see where they end up in the end of the season. I reckon they'll probably be around about mid-table. Forest Green Rovers versus Yeovil Town. Yeovil Town only 1 point off the playoffs, but this is a very difficult challenge on Forest Green Rovers, who are unbeaten so long. They are 2 points off the playoffs. No one wants to slip up in this title race, and Forest Green Rovers will put the sword to the sword to the I can't remember what phrase even is, sorry, but absolutely slaughter Yeovil here. 3-0 for Forest Green. Could see them being vital 3 points coming into the season. FC Halifax Town versus AFC Fylde. Again, Halifax only just outside the playoffs here. 3-goal swing. They're up against an AFC Fylde team who are 2 points off relegation. You'd think that it would be a bit of a formality, but nothing's a formality in this league. And AFC Fylde, I think, could get a point out of this one. 2-2 draw, which I think will please Fylde slightly more, and it will please the Shaman. Hartlepool United versus Oldham Athletic. Hartlepool in 11th, 2 points off the playoffs. They have had some decent form of late. Let's not dick around with that one. But they're up against an Oldham team who have also had a decent run of form. In fact, I would say the best form in the league. And that's going to, therefore, someone's going to have to, unless it's a draw, someone's going to have to drop some points here. I'm going to go Oldham to win this one. A pretty solid win. 3-1 to Oldham Athletic as they continue solidifying themselves into that playoffs. Maybe wanting to have half an eye maybe on being one of the seeded teams in playoffs, but I doubt they will. Rochdale versus Altrincham in what is a Manchester derby. Rochdale in 6th. They've been off and on this season, it must say. Up against Altrincham, which are only 1 point off the playoffs themselves, who I think it'll be a difficult game here. It's hard to see where it's going to go. If this game goes ahead, because Rochdale's pitch has been... I think it's been Rochdale's one, which has been playing havoc of late. Anyway, Rochdale could win this one 3-0 to the Dale. Solid 3 points, pushing them all the way into a solid... solidifying them for places in the playoffs. Give them that bit of breathing space. Sutton United versus Aldershot Town. Sutton United have just been so weird this season. They do decently well, but then they come undone again. They're in 13th. They're very mid-table. I think they just want to stabilise at the moment. They're up against an Aldershot team who are in 19th. Aldershot only 3 points off relegation zone. They're not wanting to be going to be dragged into that. But against Sutton, it's going to be difficult. 3-1 Sutton United here as they continue their mid-table form. Although they are only themselves 3 points off the playoffs, it's going to be difficult, I think, to see them actually getting into it. Wealdstone versus Boston United. Wealdstone are only 3 points off relegation zone up against Boston United, who are in the relegation zone. I think this is going to be a close-knit game, a 0-0 draw here. I really couldn't call which way it's going. Neither side has been prolifically scoring this season, especially not Boston, who only scored 19 goals. They need to get an out-and-out goal scorers during this time of the EFL. Will probably be loaning out some of their youngsters. So yeah. On to Woking versus Maidenhead, a very similar situation. Maidenhead in 22nd, Woking in 17th. Almost an identical situation, but this time Maidenhead are only 2 goals off a playoffs and have actually got a bit more of a decent goal scoring record. It's just their defence has been rotten. I think it's one of the things that they're going to want to close the gaps in that defence. Same with Woking, so they'll be focusing on defence. Another 0-0 draw. And York City versus Gateshead here, and this is going to be huge because if York City win this, they will stay top of league. But it's a difficult game against Gateshead and pushes Gateshead into the position that they probably don't want to be in, of getting overtaken by Oldham and maybe at some point kicking off a bad run of form that they don't want to see. But you can't read too much into it, but I think York City will win this one. 2-0 to the Minster men. Yeah, they just seem like a good, solid team this season, York. Braintree Town versus Southend United in what is a later kick-off. They are at home Braintree in what is an Essex derby. 2 points off survival up against Southend, who, let's face it, haven't been the greatest this season. All getting hyped up for absolutely nothing, I must say. A lot of people were bigging up Southend, but I think it was always going to be a mid-table season. I think Southend will win this one. 2-1 to the Shrimpers here, just to make sure that they don't get anywhere near their relegation positions. Oxford City versus Brackley Town in the National League North. This is a weirdly southern occasion for the National League North, with Brackley being the team who are now in the playoffs. They are 3 points off. I've seem to be saying that quite a lot recently about Brackley. They just always just seem a just nearly team at the moment. Oxford have not lost in the last 3 games, but they are still down there in 18th. I think this is going to be a difficult game. I'm going to Oxford City home advantage though. 2-1 for Oxford here, continuing that good run of form and pushing themselves away from a relegation picture. Alfreton Town versus Curzon Ashton. Alfreton Town are a very physical, long Route 1 set play, expertise style of play football, and they're in 7th, and they know the grit and determination it takes to do well in this league. Curzon Ashton, however, top of the league, they've been very impressive and free-flowing this season. They have only conceded 15 goals, really good defensive work, and scored 30. Must say, not the best attributions going forward, but as they say, it's your defence which does the heavy lifting, and I think, again, it's going to be a close game. 0-0 draw here. I think Alfreton will take that. It will probably make sure that they stay in the playoffs come the end of the day, unless certain results go other ways. But it will be a good point, I think, come the end of the season for the Reds. Chester versus Southport. Now, Chester are in 12th. Bit of an odd one. They're 4 points off the playoffs. I'm not sure that they can quite manage it. Southport, they need to get a win. They've not had a win in so long, and I think it might come here against a Chester team which is very mid-table this season. 1-0 to Southport. Be an interesting how to see how that actually does transpire. Chorley versus Buxton. Chorley can get a win here. No, let's stop that running of joke again. Chorley are in 5th. They're solid contenders for finishing the playoffs coming into this season, I think. Up against a good Buxton team, though. I have been pleasantly surprised about how well Buxton have done this season. And seeing Buxton just on the cusp of the playoffs, it does fill my heart with joy. But at Chorley's ground, I think Chorley might win this one. I'm going to be honest. 3-2 to the Magpies. They'll be maybe thinking that they can get themselves into a title race if results go their way. Farsley Celtic versus Radcliffe. Farsley Celtic finally picked up a point. Although they were winning at 1 point in their last game from this recording date. They only managed to pick up a point, and they are only 3 points from safety against Radcliffe, who are one of them teams who are 3 points behind them on the same goal difference. This could be a huge game. I'm going to go also a huge scoreline. Radcliffe 4, Farsley 2, and Radcliffe getting out of a relegation zone at the expense of Farsley will be a huge morale boost for the Greater Manchester club. Kidderminster Harriers versus Rushall Olympic. Rushall Olympic have not done well this season. They've conceded 46 goals and only scored 19. Not what you want to see. They're probably going to try and go back to basics and try and close out a good, strong Kidderminster team. Bit of a local mismatch here. I'm going to go a 0-0 draw. I think Kidderminster will be kicking themselves from rude opportunities, but will be kept knocking. Leamington versus Hereford. Yeah, Leamington is 17th here. They have won a game, finally, after weeks of ranting on about how bad Leamington have been. They have won a game. And they're up against Hereford, though. This could be a difficult challenge. Hereford are in 6th, doing quite well this season, it must be admitted. But they're also at home, the Breakers. I'm going to go 2-0 for the Breakers to win here. Get some good form, kick themselves away from relegation, back into that mid-table picture. Needham Market versus Peterborough Sports. Needham Market in 23rd, although they haven't been on a bad run of form themselves, and they are only 4 points of survival. They just need that consistent run of games. And Peterborough Sports, although they haven't been defeated in a long time, there's a lot of draws in that run that they have had. I'm going to need a market to win this one. At home advantage as well, 3-0. Scarborough Athletic versus Spennymoor Town. 13th versus 14th. Nothing much riding on this game at all, other than a bit of local pride. I'm going with a 1-1 draw here. Not much to separate these two teams. South Shields versus Darlington. Darlington in 11th. They are just 4 points off the playoffs. Could see it as an opportunity against South Shields, who are in 9th. 2 points off the playoffs. I could go either way, but Darlington have not lost a game in a while, and they're going to continue that good form here. 4-0 to the Quakers. Warrington Town versus Marine. Warrington are in 19th. They are only 6 points away from getting dragged into that relegation battle, and Marine could close that gap if they win here. I think one of the things with Marine is it's going to be an uphill battle. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw here, away from home. A good solid point, although they'd be ruining the fact that they have not managed to win the game, which would have put them outside of a relegation zone. Chesham United versus Hemel Hempstead Town. Yeah, this is a home counties arrangement, just north of London, both of these teams. And I think it's one of the things that Hemel Hempstead have had that horrid run of form. They did get a win in it, but they did lose their last game. Up against a Chesham team in 15th, who have lost the last 4 games themselves. It's going to be difficult for either one of these ones. I'm going 3-1 to the Tudors here. Hemel Hempstead, to just make sure they don't get dragged into that relegation battle. I know they're 10 points clear, but anything can happen in this league. Bath City versus Farnborough. Farnborough did just miss out on an extremely close occasion in their last fixture up against the playoff contender. I can't remember who it was now. It was one of the playoff contenders that was, for me, just quite a close game. Let me just quickly Google this. Farnborough FC. They narrowly lost out 1-0 to Maidstone United. There you go. Who have been equally good this season. I think this is going to be one of them ones that Farnborough get back to winning ways, get themselves into the playoffs. If they get a certain goal swing, which I don't think they will. But 2-0 to Farnborough. Bath City have not impressed me this season. They are just above relegation zone in 20th. I think the bottom 4 have decided to cut themselves a bit adrift. Maybe a bit too much to do in the second half of the season, but we'll see. But the 2-0 will certainly boost the hopes of the rest of the teams trying to catch up. Boreham Wood versus Slough Town. Slough are 11th. They are 6 points to the playoffs. They just need to gather a run together and they could probably get back into it. Boreham Wood, though, very difficult place to do any of that. They are only 3 points off the top of the league. They have had such a resurgence from that sort of like halfway point from this when I'm recording. They just went on that really amazing run. I think Slough could win this one. 3-2 to the Rebels here. Could be an interesting game to kickstart a good run of form to get them back into that playoff hunting run. Chelmsford City versus Aveley. Aveley are struggling this season in 21st. They've lost the last 3 games. I thought they might have had a bit of a resurgence with a couple of games that they had where they string together 4 points in 2 games, which is what you sort of need to stay in this league. But they have slumped back again. And they're up against a Chelmsford team which are 16th this season. They're not the strongest Chelmsford team we've seen over recent years. I think they are going to get something here, though, against Aveley in an Essex derby. 2-0 to Chelmsford at home. Hampton Richmond Borough versus Dorking Wanderers. Hampton Richmond Borough in 12th. They've not lost in the last 4 games, but I'm not entirely sure where they're aiming coming into the season. Up against the Dorking team, who have been faultless of late. I think they're only 3 points off the playoffs themselves, and they're going to want to capitalise on this opportunity here. 2-1 to Dorking Wanderers. I think that'll be a good result for the Surrey-based team. Hornchurch versus Tunbridge Angels. Hornchurch have been good this season, I'd say, in 13th. They have adjusted well to the National League South, the level above. They're up against Tunbridge Angels, which are no mugs at this level. They know what this league is all about. I'm going to go 2-0 Tunbridge Angels here. Going to be a bit unfortunate for the Urchins, but yeah, the Angels will potentially view themselves as outside favourites to maybe get into that playoff positions. They need to continue that good run of form they've got of late, though. Maidstone United versus Welling United. Maidstone are 5th. I think they are currently on the best run of form in the entirety of the league. I can't fault Maidstone at the moment. They have been excellent, piece for piece, pound for pound, just a great team to watch. They're up against a Welling team, though, who will potentially want to cause an upset. They are in 19th. They had 1 loss in their last 5 games, which isn't too bad, and I think they could get something here. 1-1 draw, which will help Welling much more than it probably will Maidstone come the end of the season. Salisbury versus Weymouth. Salisbury in 18th, having been real odd sods this season. They're up against Weymouth, who are bottom of the league. But yeah, if they just need to gather some results together, Weymouth. Because I don't think they've actually been the worst team defensively. They've just not managed to score enough goals. And maybe if they bring in a goal scorer, they can do well here. 4-3 to Weymouth, away from home. Going to be an interesting game. St Albans City versus Enfield Town. St Albans in 23rd. They've conceded a fair few at 38. It's not the worst conceding record, but against an Enfield Town who've conceded 47 goals, which is the worst. Enfield have been woeful in defence as of late. I think St Albans could probably capitalise on that. 6-1 to St Albans City with that leaky defence of Enfield, which would push St Albans up to the 21st spot and maybe make themselves seem a bit more outside favourites for safety. Torquay United versus Truro City. This is going to be an interesting game. This is the title decider question mark. Torquay United versus Truro. First versus second. Torquay have been on an immense run as of late. It must be said. They are up against a solid Truro team. I'm going to go home advantage to win this one at Plainmoor. 1-0 to Torquay, which could potentially seal the title for Torquay. At this stage of the season, would be a healthy place to be in. Weston-super-Mare versus Chippenham Town. Weston-super-Mare in the playoffs. They've had a bit of a poor run of form as of late, but they are up against a Chippenham Town team who, Chippenham are a weird team. They just always seem to be that floating in that mid-table team. 1-0 Weston-super-Mare here, continuing their playoff push. Certainly think if they get in the playoffs, they could be an interesting team to watch out for. Worthing versus Eastbourne Borough. Worthing in 7th versus Eastbourne Borough in 8th. Whoever wins this is in the playoffs. For now. Worthing, I think, are going to get home advantage here. 3-0 to Worthing. It'll be a good, close game. But Worthing have just scored slightly more goals this season. Gillingham versus Bromley in League 2. Certainly is an interesting one, with Gillingham having an eye on the playoffs themselves. They still got a lot to play for. They're only 1 point off the playoffs, and they're against a Bromley team who have had a really good run of form of late. They have not been defeated in so long. So let's not write off Bromley. But I think Gillingham will this one. 4-1 to the Gills here, wanting to make themselves back into that playoff pictures. It's always competitive in League 2, but especially of late. Newport County versus AFC Wimbledon. AFC Wimbledon in 6th. They're up against a Newport team who have not lost in the last 5 games from recording, but they've had 4 draws in this. And this is just going to be another one of them draws. Newport have just been frustrating teams after teams. 2-2 here at Newport's ground. Tottenham Hotspur versus Newcastle United. Newcastle being a bit all over the shop this season, it must be said. Up against Tottenham, who you can equally say that, but you can say about Tottenham every single season, it seems. I'm going to go with Tottenham to win on home advantage here. 4-1 to Spurs. AFC Bournemouth versus Everton. Bournemouth are 5th. I can't believe I'm even saying that, but Bournemouth are 5th in the Premier League. Has anyone just taken a moment to stop and realise, what? Bournemouth being 5th in the Premier League? That is, to me, the most mental storyline of the Premier League this season. I don't care about your Forest storyline, it's the Bournemouth one. They're up against Everton, who have proved to be a bit of a undoing for a fair few teams this season. They seem to be surviving themselves up there. They're 4 points off relegation zone. But I think Bournemouth, I can't see them losing this one. 2-1 to the Cherries, which would push them, if Forest lose, which hopefully they do, into the Champions League spots, and that could be absolutely mental. Bournemouth get a new stadium. Aston Villa versus Leicester City. Aston Villa in 6th, again another decent team. They're looking very nice this season. They're up against Leicester, who are not so much looking nice. They're in 17th, having lost 3-0 the last match against Wolves. I think for this one, Leicester are going to win this one, actually. I think they're going to want a reaction. 4-2 to the Foxes in this Midlands derby. Yeah, they're wanting to make sure they don't get back to the Championship. Crystal Palace versus Chelsea. Crystal Palace in 16th versus Chelsea in 2nd. Chelsea have performed well this season. I think it's going to continue here. 3-1 to the Blues. I think that will certainly... I know they said they're not in a title race, but if they continue the good form they're in, they are the most informed team in the league at the moment. And they are looking beautiful to watch under that Enzo Maresca. They just needed a bold manager who knew tactics. Manchester City versus West Ham United. Man City have dropped to 7th. What is going on at this club? They are up against West Ham United, and I think Manchester City, for the sake of the fans, will get back to winning ways here. 3-1 to City, which will push them back into Europe if results go their way. I think they're just going to need some magic, to be honest. Southampton versus Brentford. Brentford have been good this season, it must be said. A really solid outfit against the Southampton team who have not. I know Southampton appointed a new manager. No, it hasn't really inspired me with that much. 2-0 to Brentford here, continuing that good mid-table form. Brighton versus Arsenal. Arsenal in 3rd, equally good form as their rivals Chelsea. And also Liverpool, who are in the title race. All 3 of them probably still. I think 6 points off. Slight difficulty to mount and to climb. But they're against Brighton, and I reckon they could win this one here. 3-0 to the Gunners. Blackburn Rovers versus Burnley in a Lancashire derby. The real Lancashire derby. You know, the real tough ones. Blackburn versus Burnley. Be such a good game to watch. Blackburn in 5th, Burnley in 3rd. Both of these teams surging high in that promotion race. I think this is going to be all the bills for a really exciting game. 1-0 to Burnley. Yeah, sorry Blackburn fans. I just think Burnley keep getting as close as these. They've only conceded flipping 9 goals. I think Burnley to win this one 1-0. Stoke City versus Plymouth. Stoke in a healthy mid-table. Actually, not healthy to be fair. 19th. As I said, Stoke have not been impressed of late. But they will get all 3 points here against the Plymouth team who have been even worse than this season. 3-0 to Stoke at the Bet365. They'll just cruise along, I reckon, not be in any real danger of relegation. Swansea City versus West Brom. I think we know the issue with West Brom this season is that they just drop too many points. And I think this is just going to be another one of those cases. Up against Swansea, who are all over the shop in terms of mid-table. They'll get results here, but not get results there. I think 1-0 to Swansea here. Another frustrating result for the Baggies, who they just don't quite seem to have what it takes to be in the playoffs, I think, come the end of the season. Bristol City versus Derby County. Again, another away trip to another mid-table team, and I think Bristol City is going to win this one. 1-0 to Bristol City. They're going to need to get back into form. I hate predicting against Derby, I really do. You wouldn't know that by watching these videos. But I'm just never that optimistic about Derby these days. They just seem to lose by the narrowest results. We perform well, which is the most frustrating thing of them all. Hull City versus Leeds United in the Yorkshire clash. Leeds will probably fall into the same trap, expecting a good result from Hull and not get one. I'm going to go here a 0-0 draw. Hull to grind the absolute death out of Leeds here. It'll be such a boring game to watch. Middlesbrough versus Cardiff. I think Middlesbrough will be all over Cardiff in this game. They'll be wanting to get themselves into the playoffs against Cardiff in a relegation zone. 2-0 to Middlesbrough here. Fairly routine win for the Borough. Norwich City versus Coventry City. Norwich will be wanting to get into good form again, up against a misfit Coventry team. I'll keep on using that adjective. 2-1 to the Canaries. Preston North End versus Oxford. Oxford have not been doing great. I think, although I predict them a 3-0 win against Millwall, I think Preston might be a different challenge because Preston do need points to get themselves out of the relegation picture. So I think Preston will win this one 3-1 to the Lily Whites. Won't do the U's, is it? Potentially. Of Oxford. Any aspirations of safety will be firmly put back into doubt with this result. Sheffield Wednesday versus Millwall. Millwall will also be wanting to come back against that result. They're in 10th, though, at the moment. Up against Sheffield Wednesday in 9th. Could be a good game, I'm thinking. I'm going Millwall to dominate this one. 4-0 to Millwall, getting some vengeance in their bellies. Watford versus Sheffield United. I think Watford may be the undoing of Sheffield United here, as they are a team which will be needing the points to get into the playoffs. I'm going to Watford to win this one 1-0. A very close loss for Sheffield United. Burton Albion versus Northampton Town. I think this is going to be Northampton Town's first win in what feels like an absolute age against a really out of form Burton team who have appointed Lee Bowyer as their manager, but I think it was a bit too late and it's a real uphill battle. I think Northampton will win this one 2-0 to the Cobblers. Cambridge United versus Bristol Rovers. This team will not have thought they would have left it too late, and a good chance to get another series of points against Bristol Rovers here. I think they're going to win it 2-0 Cambridge United at home here. Crawley, another team who, do they hope? They certainly do. They're up against Barnsley, which I don't think, although they are 1 point off the playoffs, I don't think they've been at their best as of late. 1-0 to Crawley here. I'm going with a shock result for the Red Devils. Charlton Athletic versus Reading. Charlton Athletic will be wanting to get something here. 11th versus 7th. 4 points separating the teams as I'm recording it. I think this is going to be a good game for Charlton. 4-0 to the Addicts. Exeter City versus Bolton Wanderers. Bolton Wanderers they always do seem to just drop points here and there needlessly, which means that they just discount themselves from this playoff fight. 2-2 here at Exeter's St James's Park. Gonna be an interesting one. Huddersfield Town versus Rotherham United. Huddersfield in fourth. They are such a good team at the moment. They are absolutely on fire. Up against a Rotherham team who is very much not on fire. They are themselves 3 points off relegation. I think Huddersfield will win this one. 2-0 to the Terriers in the Yorkshire Derby. Leyton Orient, I think, will overcome Shrewsbury here. They've been good recently. Leyton Orient have really picked up the form up against that really awful team of Shrewsbury. 1-0 to Leyton Orient. Lincoln City versus Stevenage. Another team who have had that up to second form is Stevenage, and I think Lincoln City will get another draw onto their tally. They seem to have had a lot of them this season. A 0-0 draw at Sincil Bank here. Stockport County versus Mansfield Town. I think Mansfield will have half an eye in the playoffs if they can get back to winning ways. And there is certainly room to do this against Stockport County, who, though, yes, are a great team this season, will have their moments of upsets. Although it feels weird calling them being upsetted. But I think they'll get an upset here. Mansfield Town to win 2-0. Wigan Athletic versus Birmingham City. Wigan are going to be wanting to scrap for every point at the moment to just not get into that relegation zone. But Birmingham is a difficult place. They have been such a good team this season. I'm going to go with a 1-all draw, though. I think Wigan could form quite a thorn for some teams this season. Wrexham versus Peterborough. I think Wrexham are also going to drop points. It seems like I'm predicting a lot of people to drop points at the moment. But I think against Peterborough will be wanting to get something to make sure that they don't slip into a relegation fight. 2-0 to Posh here. Wycombe Wanderers versus Blackpool. Someone who I don't think will drop points here is Wycombe Wanderers up against a really good recent Blackpool team. But I think Wycombe will win this one at home. 2-0 at Adams Park. Cheltenham Town versus Walsall. I think Walsall could actually slip up in League 2 here. I think that Cheltenham, in their good recent run of form that they've got, will pose a difficulty for Walsall and beat Walsall 2-1. At Whaddon Road as well. Notts County against Swindon Town. I think it's going to be a fairly routine win for Notts County here. They'll be wanting to get themselves solidified into a playoff position up against the Swindon team, which has been quite poor this season. I'm going 3-1 to the Magpies. Bradford City versus Grimsby Town. Yeah, both of these teams hitting a bit of rotten form of, if you look at their grand scheme of history, at several points in history you can see that Grimsby Town and Bradford City were up there as some of the best teams in England. Not anymore, they're not. I'm going to go with a 1-all draw here. I think there's not going to be much to split between these two teams. I think you look at the league, they're only 3 points apart. Yeah, could see it going either way, to be fair. Barrow versus Harrogate Town. Yeah, Barrow in 15th. I think they're dead and buried on a playoff push. I think they're just going to be content being in mid-table. They're up against Harrogate, who will probably be wanting to get points for safety. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw here. There you go. Nice and boring for you. Colchester United versus Accrington Stanley. This game does actually have ramifications and survival for Accrington, and up against a Colchester team which have been getting a lot of draws this season of 11, as I said earlier. I think this could be another draw. Surprise, surprise. 1-all draw here. Doncaster Rovers versus Port Vale. This is an exciting game. Port Vale in second, Doncaster Rovers in third. I think Port Vale will be getting back to winning ways in this one. 1-0 to the Valiants. Making sure that they continue to get that automatic promotion spot, because no one wants to be in the lottery, which is the playoffs from the end of the season. Milton Keynes Dons versus Salford City. Although I mentioned earlier in the video that Salford were in a playoff hunt, MK Dons I think are more likely to end up in the actual playoffs, and I think at home they can win it here. 3-1 to MK Dons at Stadium MK. Good game to watch though. Tranmere Rovers versus Carlisle United. Another difficult away trip for Tranmere here, and I think Carlisle will get the result 2-0 to the Cumbrian team. There is an FA Trophy game of Aldershot Town versus Chertsey Town. And I'm going to go with Aldershot Town to draw 0-0 with Chertsey and Aldershot to win on penalties. Altrincham versus Barnet in the FA Trophy as well. This will be an interesting one. I think Altrincham actually, home advantage. I think Barnet will be focused on the league, maybe play a bit of a weaker squad. Alty to win 3-2. Baseford United versus Eastleigh. Could we have an upset on the cards? I don't know. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw and Eastleigh to win on penalties, but I think Baseford could feasibly pull off another upset. Biggleswade Town versus Oxford City. Not much I can see going with this game. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw, Oxford City to win on penalties. Forest Green Rovers versus Chorley here. Both teams are doing so well. I have a 0-0 draw and Forest Green Rovers to win on penalties. I won't do that for every game, don't worry, because we've got Gainsborough Trinity versus York City. York City, another team who I think will be more focused on the title. Gainsborough haven't got much to play for in the Northern Premier League this season. 1-0 to Gainsborough Trinity, making them have a really good FA Trophy run, and I think that'll push them into the 5th round, which will be a good... I think that's a good thing for Tier 7 overall. Seeing a team just go that far into competition, beat current top of the league, of the National League's team, do them a world of good. Could they go on to win it all? We'll see. Gateshead versus Boston United. I think Gateshead will win this one 2-0. They are the current holders of the trophy and they certainly take it seriously. Gosport Borough versus Torquay United. I'm going with a 0-0 draw here. Torquay to win on penalties. Not quite sure where I see it going though. Gosport could provide an upset. They are at home. Hampton Richmond Borough versus Spennymoor Town. This is a long trip and I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw. Hampton Richmond Borough to win on penalties. But again, it's going to be one of the closest games I think you'll ever see. Kidderminster Harriers versus Slough Town. 0-0 draw, Kidderminster Harriers to win on penalties. Rochdale versus Stockton Town. Stockton have proved to be quite the force of late. They are doing well in the Northern Premier League. They're up against a team though which is doing well in the National League. We're going to go 0-0 draw on Rochdale to win on penalties, but I don't think Stockton will be a disgrace. Sittingbourne versus Salisbury. 0-0 draw, Salisbury to win on penalties. Sittingbourne though, I do think they do love a good cup run themselves, so could get something here. Southend United versus Southport, the Battle of the Souths. I think Southend United will win this one outright, 4-2 to the Shrimpers. Sutton United versus Tamworth. Both these teams mid-table in the National League could both do an FA Trophy run. I have a 1-1 draw here, and for Sutton United to win on penalties. Weymouth versus Boreham Wood. We'll go Boreham Wood to win this one 2-0. They do love a good cup run themselves, Boreham Wood. Woking versus Radcliffe. 0-0 draw with Woking to win on penalties. But again, I think both of these teams will just be rather focused about trying to stay in the league. In the National League North, we got Alfreton Town versus Darlington. Darlington, I think, do have a cheeky outside shout of being in the playoffs. If they get a result here against Alfreton, you certainly wouldn't write it off, especially with a lot of teams not playing. And as they say, you'd rather have points on the board than games in hand. 3-2 to Darlow here. It will be a fantastic game. Farsley Celtic versus Rushall Olympic. I think Farsley's woes will continue as really poor Rushall Olympic will win this one 4-1. Because Farsley Celtic aren't actually at home and therefore it's hard to predict them to win at home if they're not actually at a home ground. Leamington versus Buxton. I'm going to see Buxton winning this one here. 1-0 to the Bucks, pushing them back into the playoffs. Needham Market versus Curzon Ashton. Curzon Ashton will be coming back to winning ways, getting top of that league. I think solid form, 3-0 Curzon Ashton, fairly easy result for the Greater Manchester team. Scunthorpe United versus Brackley Town. I think Scunthorpe will win this one, although Brackley haven't ironed the playoffs. Scunthorpe are no mugs and will be wanting to make sure they are definitely in the playoffs coming into the season. 1-0 to the Iron in a very close-knit game. South Shields v Hereford in this fixture. Both teams have an eye on the playoffs. Both ones will be desperate not to drop points as well. 0-0 draw here. Warrington Town versus Kings Lynn Town. I'm going with a cheeky upset. Warrington to win this one. 1-0 to the Cheshire team. Chippenham Town versus Worthing in the National League South. But we all know with Chippenham that they can provide upsets sometimes. And up against a Worthing team which will be desperate not to get one, I think they probably will get one. I think Chippenham to win 3-1 here at home. Dorking Wanderers versus Bath City. I think this is fairly routine for Dorking to win against an outformed Bath team. 4-1 to Dorking here. They've just been so exciting to watch this season, Dorking, haven't they? Eastbourne Borough versus St Albans City. I'll go St Albans City to win a shock result here against Eastbourne. Just as I predicted Worthing to have a shock, Eastbourne to equally have a shock against St Albans City. Which will be back-to-back wins for my predictions. 2-1 to St Albans here. And back-to-back wins does do them a lot of good in terms of trying to get to their elusive safety. Especially if Bath gets back-to-back losses, will push them only 2 points off safety. Enfield Town versus Chelmsford City. I think Enfield could win this one. Chelmsford I've not been impressed with this season. I thought they were going to do better. 3-1 to Enfield here. Farnborough versus Chesham United. Farnborough, they're on eyes on the playoffs, and Chesham, I don't think they'll be able to stop it. 1-0 for Farnborough here. Close, narrow game, but they'll get themselves in the playoffs. Tonbridge Angels versus Weston-super-Mare. Weston-super-Mare, I think, are going to win this one in a narrow fashion. 1-0 against playoff hunters Tonbridge. Truro City versus Hornchurch. Truro will be wanting to get to the top of the league, especially with Torquay not playing this game week. I think Truro will win this one. 3-2 to the Cornish team at home. Fulham versus Ipswich Town. Fulham have been great this season, haven't they? 4-1 to Craven Cottage, to the Cottagers. Yeah. Liverpool versus Manchester United, which is at one point the greatest game in world football. Not so much anymore. I think Liverpool will grind out a 0-0 draw here. I think it'll be 2 points dropped. But I think Manchester United have proven themselves this season to just be one of them annoying mid-table teams. It just takes points off the top, but drop points against the lower oppositions. Sunderland to beat Portsmouth in what must be one of the longest journeys in the entirety of the Football League pyramid. It's certainly a long one for Portsmouth fans to make. 1-0 to Sunderland. It's a long way to Portsmouth when you're shit. Unfortunately, I think that will ring true, as Portsmouth have not been great this season. Chesterfield versus Gillingham. I think this will be a proper ding-dang-do, a proper end-to-end fixture. 3-3 draw here. Crewe Alexandra will want to make sure that they are in the automatics coming into the season. 2-1 to Crewe Alexandra over Bromley here. Fleetwood versus AFC Wimbledon. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here. I don't think Wimbledon will be able to get all 3 points from what is quite a turgid and horrid ground of Fleetwood's. I'm going to go with an exciting game from Newport County versus Morecambe. 5-3 to the Exiles. At Rodney Parade, I believe it is. I think it'll be a great game. Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Nottingham Forest. Hoping Wolves do this. 1-1 draw. They did do 3-0 against Leicester. Can they do it against the other East Midlands team in the Premier League? Queen's Park Rangers versus Luton Town. Go another 1-1 draw here. I think both of these teams have been good as of late. Both will be having an eye on getting a solid mid-table finish of the season. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you're new around here. That will be hugely appreciated. Go on one of my other videos, the Derby County Best 100 will be back next week. I'll be also doing my all the football matches I've gone to across the football pyramid of last year, 2024. Maybe with a special guest as well for that one, in the new year in a few days' time as well. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe if you're new around here. And it's goodbye for now.